day out there to all of my listeners. Welcome to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And I'm your host, Cassandra Crawley Mayo. And for some of you, the new listeners that are on, just so you're aware that my book corresponds with the podcast. The name of my book is Your Way in Your Way. It's a self-discovery guide for women on how to restore yourself, learn from your experiences, and be your true self again. And also, this podcast are for my listeners who are ready to move forward in their lives. They feel like they're stuck. They're just in a stagnated move, and they just want to come out and be their best self. And also, we want to mitigate those self-imposed barriers that's preventing you from living your best life on your terms. And I have a special guest today. And one of the topics for the new listeners, the topics we talk about are usually business or personal development. And also, this creates an opportunity for you to self reflect. And so we have our special guest today by the name of Yahne Sneed. And I'd like to welcome Yahne to the stage. How are you, Yahne?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And I love the topic that we're going to talk about, the power of resilience through relentlessness. That's a lot of R's and can get twisted up, but we know what resilient is, and keep it moving, and relentless, not letting go, keep it going. Before I start, my new listeners, I read the bio of my guest so that you'll get a little tidbit of what she's all about before we delve into the questions. So, Yahne has faced numerous trials, each offering valuable lessons for her growth. Her journey, marked by challenges, is a testament to resilience and strength. She refuses to let experiences define her, always seeking the silver lining in every hardship. In 2022, she established Relentless Phoenix and authored Manifest Your Canvas, sharing insight on overcoming adversity. Her mission is to guide individuals through adversities to unlock their full potential. We definitely want to hear about that, right, listeners? She's guiding individuals through adversities to unlock their full potential. Wow. Well, so Yane, before we really start delving in, I want you to share some specific aspects of your backstory that empowered you to start this work.
Yeah, so I had a troubled childhood. I didn't really have a lot of support growing up, and I was emotionally and mentally abused in my family dynamics. I was also sexually abused as well by my dad, who I call sperm donor. Throughout my childhood, I really lost my identity or sense of purpose, and it wasn't until I started getting to college where I started finding my belonging. I started doing mentorship and really helping other individuals
Mhm.
with their life adversity. So I started finding my purpose during that moment and really finding where I belong at and the balance within my pain and my struggles and helping others. I was using that to motivate myself and help them overcome their struggles. And in college, I did social work. And but I didn't feel like I was getting given back in social work. Nor was I really I was struggling a lot in college, but I did manage to get a degree in social work and overcome those adversities with believing that I can overcome. And then I had children after my second child. During my time, I had my second child in 2022. I started a business called Relentless Phoenix as a life coach because I wanted to use more of my background, my life experiences to continue helping others.
Mhm.
And also, like my bio said, write Manifest Your Canvas, which is talking about the ways in which I use emotional resilience, mental clarity, empowerment in my daily life to help others as well. So it's been a full circle journey of using my story to help others overcome their challenges.
Right. So it sounds like you're entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur now.
Yes.
So are you doing social work?
I am using my social work degree for my life coaching business.
Uh-huh.
So not much social work one on one with a client, more than I am doing with my life coaching.
Okay, okay. Now, what is it about you, based on your background, your backstory? Um, Whereas there's some individuals that have very similar instances or circumstances as you do, as you did, and they're having trouble. Some of my listeners are having trouble getting out of it. They're stuck with it. You know, they're still in their past. What did you do, or what is it about you that had you to pivot and say, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I understand what happened to my past, and I'm not going to let that define me. So what happened?
So I just want to say that I get a little I get shy when I say what's something about you because I feel like everyone can do what I can do if they really put their minds to it. So I just want to make sure that I'm not an exception to the rule. I am the rule. If I can do it, you can too. And I want to
Right.
help with those skills and I want to provide that. But to answer your question, one thing it was is when I was in college, I challenged those thoughts that I had that was built inside of me. I re-challenged those negative thoughts because one thing I understood about myself when I started challenging these thoughts was that most of my thoughts, my negative thoughts, wasn't my own. My thoughts was chained towards somebody else's thought, how they perceived me. I believed that I couldn't be this way, or I believed that I had a lot of self doubt. Those wasn't my thoughts. Once I started challenging them, I started looking for the positive that I have done already in my life up to that point of college, and I started challenging more of my negative thoughts. I also started looking at the things that I have overcame when I was in college. I felt a presence, and I heard this presence say, "I'm doing it." And when I repeated it, it was kind of like epiphany. I was like, "I am doing it." So I have to make sure I'm in the moment as well when I'm going through this stuff, so I won't feel stuck. Like I don't know which way to go. It's be in the moment and look at your obstacle as the obstacle is a problem more than you are. So I started really trying to focus myself and ground myself. Today, I'm starting to use meditation now in order
Mm-hmm.
to really focus it and be more positive hearted. Because when you do go through something like that, it's hard to really come out of it. So
Mm-hmm.
those tips right now is what I do and I continuously do. Just plant that seed of not letting it's not what they tell you, it's kind of what you tell yourself. It's kind of what the things I tell my clients. So really reprogramming yourself in your head to really challenge some of those thoughts and your perception.
Mm-hmm. Is that easy to do? Could my listeners take that nugget that you just gave, um, or could you share with them, like, well, how do you really do that, and how long did it take? Did it happen?
Yes.
I know it didn't happen overnight.
No, no, no. I've been out of college for a while now. So it doesn't happen overnight. What happens is, well, for me, it's consistency.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a light switch. You turn it on and miraculously you don't have self-doubt or insecurities or your self-esteem is high now. It doesn't work that way. You're kind of like baking in the oven, if you will. It's a slow process. It's a very slow process to rewire a lot of things that you self-sabotaging for. So no, it wasn't. And what it looks like is, say for instance you have self-doubt and for me it was graduating. Say for instance you're trying to graduate, you have self-doubt about getting there. Well, for me, I look back, I was like, well, I finished freshman year, I
Yeah.
finished sophomore year, so I'm proving to myself that me saying I'm not going to graduate is senseless when I already proven I can pass 1 year, I can pass 2 years. That's what self-doubt of
Right.
graduating. Or
Mm-hmm.
if it's in you being your parenting, 'cause I got 2 kids. Well, the first one was a little bit edgy. You make your mistakes, but the second one, because you learned from those experiences with your first child, now you have some building blocks to work with. So you're not a bad parent. You're just a parent that's trying to prove there's no handbook in that. So giving yourself grace as well. So just trying to rewire that to look at the positive because sometimes when we're in a tornado, we can only think about the negative because that's where we at. We're all in a tornado, but we try to focus on a positive, which I call, like, we all call the silver lining in a
Mm-hmm.
situation that helps you focus more on something positive to get you through that dark tunnel, and survive, which is like resilience, trying to find ways to adapt to a situation or a stressor. I'm sorry, a stressor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another way is to to joke about things. Probably just sound weird, but making light of a situation and don't be so hard on yourself when something happens. Accidents happen, but it's the way in which you can perceive yourself when you make an accident or a bad judgment call. Just learn from it, grow from it, but don't be so hard on yourself. That's one also a trait of growth as well, is being
Mhm.
really down on yourself. So those are just some of the tips you can use to get yourself out of those nuggets.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, it's like give yourself some grace,
Yeah,
right?
in different ways. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You talked about empowerment. What does empowerment mean to you?
When I think about empowerment, and it probably sounds really cliche, but I think about MLK. I really do because he was very authentic. He spoke up for what he spoke up, even when it was just him speaking up about it. And that's what you have to do when it comes to yourself. You have to be your true, authentic self. Even if there's no one in this world who's going to love you, no one in the world who's going to speak up for you, you have to be your own best friend. That's what I think of empowerment. Speak up to what is true to you, regardless of what it looks like, but you have to love yourself at the end of the day. So that's what I think of empowerment, even when it goes against speaking up for others. You're being true to yourself because you are the community. The community is you. So just being authentic in what is right and what is wrong and speaking up for it.
Okay. Okay. So, you have clients you indicated, and so how do you empower others? Because you have that innate gift. You know what to say to yourself, what to do. Reverse that self-talk, that negative talk. Because we think 20,000. The statistics say that we have 20,000 thoughts a day, and 70% of those are negative, right? So you've taken a while to kind of what you would call to not only to empower but to develop yourself. So as you're working with other people, what's your methodology to empower them? What do you how do you start that process?
So whatever challenge it is, say for instance, we go back to self-doubt. I have them do more of a self-reflection. Look upon their life, start seeing what they can pull from it. So if it's saying, I'm worth nothing or I don't feel love or something like that, well, I start challenging that. Is it true? Can you think of a moment in your life that, you felt the opposite, you felt love or anything like that? Usually they can pick up one or two things. So I started challenging and breaking down those walls because sometimes we give ourselves a narrative that's not true. So I start challenging them doing their own self-reflection. And once I start giving them that epiphany that some of the things they thought wasn't true, we start building up other barriers, or take away their limited beliefs on different situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, how can you tell whether a person loves themselves? How can you tell that? Because one of the things you talked about is, first of all, you want to make sure. First of all, people have to love themselves. So, what are some of the characteristics you found where people do not love themselves? It said yeah, like one of the first commandments was, to love your neighbor as yourself. And if you don't love yourself, it's going to be difficult to love your neighbor. So, how can you tell if a person loves themselves or not?
It's the way you can kind of really put it nail on the head. It's kind of really how they treat themselves when it comes to others. How your posture, how you see things, how you see the world. I mean, there are black and whites like racism. That's not love, neither for you or the other neighbor, because that's not bringing peace. There are subtle ways in self-sabotaging, possibly drinking alcohol. That's not really loving yourself or others, especially if you have children. So it just depends on the influence of positive influence. Does it promote your healthy mind state? That's how I know yourself, you're loving yourself and others.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, you talk people through how to love themselves? I mean, like if
I,
somebody comes to you, and do you automatically know that based on their behavior? And if so, what are some of the things you do or support them with so they can start loving themselves?
well, self love comes from a lack of void or self esteem, like a confidence. So we have to get that first situated before we can even say we love ourselves. Because when it comes to that, it comes shame, it comes with defeat. If you've been through some trauma, you're thinking it's yourself, so you don't have that love within you. So we have to build from where they're at. So if they're coming in with low self-esteem, low confidence, then we have to prove, well, not me, I guess I had them come to the realization of proving themselves that they have that within them. So when it comes down to helping them with love, you can bring them to the ocean and have, like, well, the river, and get them to drink, but it's kind of like that scenario. They have to see that within them. So I can't say, hey, let's walk through a moment where you felt that you wasn't loving yourself in this moment, and then I kind of reprogrammed them. And okay, well, maybe you give yourself, like I said, that word grace, and look at this a different way. And I asked them these questions. Hey, well, you could have been nicer to yourself, yes. You could have been more forgiving to yourself, yes. But through that, did you ever ask yourself how you're doing in that moment? So I start building those things up. If they don't have that, I start building those things up within them to have those skills, those stepping stones for them, so they can do it on they self.
Hmm. Hmm. So it sounds like, based on what you've been through, you've had a lot of personal growth. Where did that personal growth come from? How are you getting that?
My personal growth came through wisdom. That's the only way I can help myself and my clients is through my wisdom. I didn't learn this in no book, not
Hmm.
at all. Don't How I can speak is through what I've been through, and that's how I can help them. So it's basically just all on wisdom, and that's a lot because not a lot of people can look back on their lives and say they learned something. So that in itself was self-reflection, a lot of self-reflection. Because I did make mistakes, but in order to grow from them and help others, you have to know what it looks like to get to the other side. You really can't talk through with a client if you don't know what it looks like on the other side. So a lot of self reflection, a lot of growth through it all.
Hmm. Hmm. What triggers your clients to come to you? What's their trigger? What's like a common denominator why they come to you?
So the main stressor is a lack of purpose. That's the theme. I'm trying to think of all of them. That's the theme, a lack of purpose. They
Hmm.
come with, I don't know, the next stage in my life, or I'm stuck deciding between what my family wants or what do I want when it comes to school. I
Hmm.
have clients that come in and say that my kids are grown now and they out of the house. What do I do next? So it's a lot of finding purpose.
Hmm.
There's some identities, but more when you get down to it, it's about belonging somewhere, trying to find a purpose, another meaning after they already fulfilled what they thought was their original purpose. So it's more of that type of thing.
Okay. Now, a lot of people are into, and I remember myself, I'm like, what is my purpose throughout the years? What's my purpose? And you found your purpose out of what you've been through. You were clear on that was your purpose.
So originally it wasn't about what I've been through. 'Cause I didn't know that is what I was going to arrive at when I decided to do life coaching.
Mhm.
I was even talked down about doing life coaching by a lot of I call them fake leaders at this point. I had leaders that I try to look up to find my purpose because I
Mhm.
didn't know. I thought they knew, but they tried to tear me away from life coaching. And try to point out my flaws, try to make me embarrassed about really speaking up about my life story.
Mhm.
So it took me a while to even get to this point.
Okay.
So I always questioned why I was going through what I was going through. I didn't know
Mhm.
why. I
Mhm.
didn't know about what clues. I didn't know anything. I just knew that I was going to arrive at that at some point because I knew that during that time I was religious, so I knew that God would put more on me than I could bear. I didn't know why He put that much on me. I just knew I can get through it. So
Mhm.
I just kept with the why. Why me? Why am I going through this? Until I started getting sparks of it when I started mentoring. And I was like, okay, I'm helping this individual because I've been through it. So I know how to guide them in a way. I know how to get them to a realization of what they need to see in this
Mhm.
moment for themselves. So I started getting a lot of those. And I was like, okay, well, let me go into social work so I can
Mhm.
do more of that. I didn't even know life coaching was existing during that time, but I
Mhm.
arrived at that much later after college.
Okay. Um, Your mission is to guide individuals through adversities in order to unlock their full potential. Use me as a client. What was some of the things you do to support me or empower me to unlock my full potential?
Okay, so I don't want to ask your age or anything, but so in order to help you unlock your full potential, you'll get stuck. And that means that there is a crossword, there's a void, there's something that you're uncertain about doing. Because if you're not stuck, you'll make a decision, you'll know what it is. So say
Mhm.
for instance, you're working and you're stuck at a job, you don't know what you want to do at this point. The first question I would ask is what makes you happy? What makes you feel like you belong? What is that it? You'll give me if you want to give me an answer, you can give me an answer, but usually it's well, I do this or I play this sport or sometimes when I read or X, Y, and Z, this makes me feel
Mhm.
happy. So we start looking at any connections to what can be out there for you to explore. We go down that road.
Mhm.
Sometimes if you're younger, I ask the question of when you was younger, well, what did you want to be?
Mhm.
Ballerina, astronaut, whatever that case may be. So we look at that, we start exploring those things and seeing how that can fit in what you can do. So we start really where the client is at, and we kind of work around that. It depends on the age as well, but it definitely depends on what makes you happy. I start there first because that's usually when I can get someone to really think. Because when you're stuck, you're like, I got 50 many things
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
think about. I have no clue which way. So let's start with make you happy first. What does that look like for you in your everyday life? And we start there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I asked that because the podcast is Your Way in Your Way, and there are a lot of listeners that number one, they want to change jobs, they want to be promoted, they want to get out of a relationship, but they're struggling with that. They want to start a business, a number of things. Whereas they'll get in their way from doing those things. They have that self doubt, those negative beliefs. Um, Also comparison, social media. They're so busy trying to comparing themselves to social media. It's a lot of things that's preventing them from living their best life because they're in their way. Like you mentioned, procrastination. I can recall myself, like I know there's certain things I need to do when I was supposed to have been writing my book, but I would find everything else to do but that. Also self-sabotage, imposter syndrome. So that's why I asked that question about how do you guide them to their potential, because that's a lot of my listeners are ready to move forward and do something. They're uncomfortable, they're unsettled in what it is that they're doing, and they want to do something different. So that's why I asked the question for my listeners to find out, to help them, like you said, maybe ask them what makes them happy. And there's some of them that might not even know.
Yeah, because the reason why I asked that is because although it's a simple question, when you put that in context of what to do next, it's hard to connect those two because what makes you happy for me, I love poetry, but poetry is not going to pay the bills unless you're a good writer. So we have to start connecting your passion first and then give it 10. I can't say, okay, these are the steps I would like you to take if you're not passionate about it. So what makes you happy for me, that's how I gives my clients a way to think on a more positive note to
Hmm.
do that because you mentioned a lot of things, but if you don't have passion behind doing something, then it's kind of irrelevant. You're going to stay stuck. So having that drive definitely help. Yeah, social media, we got a lot of different things going on. Well, all that can is distractions. But if you have passion, you have intent behind it, you have a purpose behind it, then you can get rid of all of those distractions. So starting from what makes you happy for me opens my clients' eyes up to, well, let me see what I can do because sometimes we in a job just for the checks. So what makes
Hmm.
you happy can start finding that purpose of
Hmm.
let me find out what I can connect with in this world and then, there goes the intention
Hmm. Hmm. How has your spirituality impacted you?
greatly. I think my spirituality saved me in a lot of situations. Because of how I perceived life when I was younger,
Hmm.
it it saved me from a lot of things that I could have done worse for my to myself. It balanced me out. It helped me find clarity in certain situations that I didn't really have a strong understanding on.
Mhm.
Meditation has definitely helped because it allowed me to de-stress in a lot of situations that may be triggering. So really
Mhm.
leaning into that to help manifest what I want in this world instead of letting the world define me. So the spirituality just really put a balance and a calmness in me to really move forward with what I need to do, which is get
Mhm.
back.
Right, right. Um, so you talked about wholeness. Um, how do you be whole? The WHOLE, and what does it look like to be whole?
Yeah. So two questions. The first one, what it look like to be whole is be one with yourself in the midst of the troubles. So you're
Hmm.
not scatterbrained, you're balanced and you know what to do during a situation. The stress is not stressing you out or is not causing you to be discombobulated, not focus on the actual goal, which is, dealing with the stressor head on and not freezing up. That's what it looks like. How you can get there is a lot of self-reflection, a lot of meditating, a lot of
Hmm.
grace and forgiveness. These things I'm saying sound simple, but
Hmm.
it's really not.
Right.
Meditating for 10 minutes is not something that's simple because we're so neat in constant interaction with something. To stay still is not simple at all, but it
Hmm.
is rewarding. Grace and forgiveness, not simple at all, though I'm just saying it like that. It's not simple at
Right.
all, especially when you have to do the inner work and come to terms with the reality of the situation that you may have caused a lot of self sabotage in your life. That's not an easy feat to have at all, especially with me. I'm speaking from personal experience, not an easy feat to say, you know what, I may have caused some harm to myself. I need to show some forgiveness that's so I can move on from this situation. Not at
Hmm.
all easy. Also, it's a lot of hard work, but when you're consistent with it all, it really does pay off. It really does pay off.
Hmm. What does Yanni's uh, day look like?
Whew,
Like, yeah, because
it's
you have children and you want to
yeah.
maintain where you are now, and how do you do that?
Man, oh man, oh man. So it varies depending on if the kids want to wake up on time. So
Right.
um,
Hmm.
the first thing I do is I do wake up at least 30 minutes earlier. I do try. The 20 minutes is the minimum I have afforded to me. So I'll use that time to meditate, or I'll just sit on my couch, listen to instrumental soft music to get my mind in a mind state of giving back and be grateful. I wake up with a thanks all the time. I thank you to myself, and I also say thank you to the world
Hmm.
to waking me up again. They didn't have to. I could have been 6 feet under yesterday, but I'm not. So I'm grateful for that. So I come in with a first grace. Thanks for myself as well for actually making it here because I could have been written off and had my life overcome me, but I overcame
Right.
it. Then I wake my kids up. Um, get them going. My daughter, I also do the same thing to her. I also ask her what do three things that she's proud of in the morning, so I get
Hmm.
her in that same mindset. My little one, she's still two. She can't really do that,
Right.
but
Hmm.
we wake up with a good head on our shoulders. We get together, school, come back, help out my clients. I do have a podcast coming up, called Relentlessness podcast that would be out shortly. So I start doing videos for that. So in between the mix of those two things, I'm also authoring another book. So pretty
Right.
hectic day. I do have sometimes depending on what I'm doing, pick the kids up and I'm with them. So
Okay.
I transition many hats throughout the day as well. So it depends on other life situations, but the general aspect of it, that's basically what I do.
Yeah, because I asked that because we all have things to do. We got to have relationships, especially as women. We have to take care of the kids, take care of the bills, take care of the inside of the house. You got to cook, you got to buy the groceries. Here you
Yeah, all
are,
of it.
an author. Now you're an entrepreneur. So that's why I'm asking, because there's so many people that are just overwhelmed. They're just burnt out. So that's why I asked the question, because I'm sure my listeners like, wow, she's doing a lot. Well, what does her day look like? How did she start her day? What is going on? Oh my gosh, she got two kids, so that's why I wanted to pose that question to you. Now, as we wrap up, and congratulations on starting a podcast. What's the name of your podcast going to be?
You're going to say name my business, Relentless Phoenix,
Okay.
Relentless Phoenix Podcast.
Okay. Right. Because the title of this podcast is Power of Resilience Through Relentlessness. And that's something that has definitely resilient, and you're going to keep it moving. You're going to let go. You're not going to let go. And that's good. And just your testament demonstrates to my listeners, wow, she's been through a lot. We don't know all the specifics of her life, but we do know that she had some experiences like we all do in our childhood, but yet she was able to pivot and bounce back and serve. So you're an entrepreneur, but you're not a product entrepreneur, you're a service entrepreneur. So that's a good thing. So the what I'd like for you to do is, because I talked about how my listeners are unsettled, some of them, a lot of them have come a long way with the trajectory of their lives. What message would you provide them that is ready to change the trajectory of their lives, to my listeners?
Two things, and this is what I tell my clients as well. Is a quote of mine that I use daily. Age does not determine your maturity, it's what you learn from your experiences that justifies your growth. The second thing is the past is not here, the future is gone. You only have right now, so stay right now because you're telling your story. Both of those I think is really important because it demonstrates that you have to be in a moment at all times, and not be distracted about what happened in the past or what's going on in the future. You're right here learning in exact moment, changing your story.
Now, what was your first one? You had two, and I didn't understand what the first one was, the message for the listeners.
Yes, the first one is age does not determine your maturity,
Okay.
but what you learn from your experiences justifies your growth.
Okay. Okay. Great. What a great message. How can my listeners contact you?
Yes, so I have a website, yahnesneed.com. That's YAHNESNEED.com. My social media handles Relentless Phoenix 00. And I'm also, from this recording, I am sharing one free copy of a chapter in my novel called Manifest Your Canvas. You just have to inquire more on my webpage or my social media.
So you say you have a page on your website.
No, I am going to be offering a free chapter of my
Okay.
novel, Manifest Your Canvas. You have to inquire about it on
Okay.
my website or my social media.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on Is Your Way in Your Way, and continue your resilience. And you're already relentless. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I applaud you for giving back. It's better to give than receive. So I'm certain that you will be gifted for what the what you've given out. And again, so my listeners, resilience is the word, and be relentless with it. And again, Yahne, thank you so much, and God bless you. And I also tell my listeners bye for now. I don't say goodbye. All this podcast, if you found this to be of value and you have some friends or individuals that you'd like for them to hear this, please share it. And it's okay to replay it, because this is going to be on all podcast platforms. And also, this is going to go live on my platform in June. And so, again, thank you. Bye for now. And God bless you. Thank you, Yahne.
Bye.